We got a pretty exciting show today. If any of you parents are out there or budding authors, motivational speakers, we have a young man who's written a book, and we want to share his story and some successes, and we want to talk about the youth. We want to talk about writing. We want to talk about upward mobility and vision, okay, today. So if you parents have children or young adults, or even if somebody's older that wants to talk about writing and telling your life story, then this is a show you don't want to miss. Okay, let's get started. Let's call in. Let's light up the screens in there, and you know, let's have some fun today. Okay, help me welcome Rob Roots. How you doing, Rob?
How you doing, Richard? And I want to thank you for having me on the show today.
Hey, man, it's my pleasure. Okay, to the degree that you're comfortable, tell us a little bit about yourself first before we talk about the book.
Well, originally I was born in New York City. I moved a couple years after that. We moved to Miami. That's where I lived. I moved here when I was in 5th grade from Miami. That's when my parents divorced. And from there, you know, I got into the problems that most youth and young adults get into. So what happened was the things I wanted to do, things I wanted to achieve started getting very limited because of the situations that I was being, that was in front of me and all the obstacles that I faced. Growing up, I never really looked at, you know, this is really gonna affect me. I looked at it as this is just that moment. You know, this is just this, and then after that it moves on. But I never thought about it actually carrying. But when I was 19 years old, I actually look back on my life and see how much this has affected me, and then I say, you know what, there's some other youth and young adults that's dealing with the same issues, and some of the same problems are going to be dealing with the same issues and some of the same problems, and I would like to, you know, give them my perspective on how they should handle those situations so they can get better off for what they need to do. Okay,
so and the name of the book is Falling Isn't Failing?
Falling Isn't Failing, the 5 keys to overcoming a fall and achieving success for youth and young adults.
Okay, now the motivation you just talked about a bit. Okay, you were, to recap, you when your parents divorced, you guys moved here. You were going through some changes that a lot of youth go through.
Yeah.
I myself went through. Okay, and at what point in time, what grade were you, or where were you in school, and how old are you now?
I'm 21.
Okay, so where were you when you decided, okay, I'm gonna take what's happened and I'm gonna try to put it down and let that be a lesson so that somebody else can maybe benefit from it?
I was 19 years old. At the time, I'm a rapper, I'm a songwriter, I'm also a producer. And I was sitting down in the studio, me, my father, my girlfriend Brittany, and Mark Roof, he's owner of M5 Media Group. And we were sitting down doing some music, and while we were sitting there, I was writing down some things, and my father said, hey, you know, you got a great story, you know, you've been through a lot, and while you're out doing your music and everything else, you can help somebody. My father, he's a motivational speaker and also an author. He wrote the book, Prepare for the Wolf, and you know, what he's able to do and how he's able to touch people and help everybody else, he told me I could do the same. So I looked at it and I said, you know what, I really could do something to help people out, because deep inside, I know when I was going through my issues and problems, I wanted somebody to understand and try to give me a way to find how I can handle these issues. But I had to handle those problems firsthand because I didn't know how to handle it at the moment.
How do you get started? For the people that are out there that are looking and saying, okay, I've gone through some things, there's some people out there, and I've talked about, you know, my past on this show and how God took me out of the muck and the mire and allowed me to do what I'm doing now. What would you say to them, to the people that are out there that are looking and saying, okay, I've gone through some things, I need to tell my story? What was the first step you take?
The first step I take is to write down, you know, what really impacted you. How do you want to change people's lives? You know, how do you want to help somebody? What story that you've been through can help somebody? Because something that you say can make a major impact and make somebody look at their life and want to make a difference.
Now, there are people out there, because I've heard this said before, I've gone into, you know, I've been talking to juvenile groups since I was a deputy sheriff back in the day when dinosaurs roamed the earth. And we still do things, talk to groups, you know, ran programs with the California Youth Authority. To those people who might say to you, okay, you're 21 years old, I mean, how much life experience you have? Because you do go out and do motivational speaking, right?
Yes, I do.
You speak to high schools, you speak to elementary schools. Would you speak to middle schools and high schools?
I speak to middle schools, high schools, colleges, youth detention centers, I go to jails. I also speak to parents and educators as well. I speak to them about how to, effectively communicate with youth and young adults.
Well, let's take this call, and then we'll go back to the motivation. Caller, you're on the air.
Now, my question, our youth today are overly stimulated. They're overly distracted with these things that are designed to appeal and grab their attention and I guess designed to make an impression. And you got games and televisions and you got music that really don't make a positive impression or have positive input. You got the videos, Facebook, Twitter, and on top of all of this, you young men have peer pressure, where everybody wants to either imitate or impress the other. So my question to my young brother is, what suggestions do you have for our youth to stay focused for the long haul?
You gotta look at it as you're gonna live every single day. Every single day you're gonna have to live with every single choice and every single consequence. So why not do everything that you can at the moment to get everything that you want later on in life, even if it takes long. See, a lot of the times the issue is that people get distracted often because they're caught up with when. They look at it, oh, it's gonna be a long time from now, or oh, this doesn't matter, I can do it here. People have to be on the schedule. You have to have set times and set goals every single day so that you can get to the bigger picture.
So you answered my question and you answered Bernard's question. That's an excellent point. What I'm hearing you saying is that you have to find where your passion is.
Yes.
And work towards that. And I heard you say be disciplined.
Yes.
So we got a call, but hold on, call. I just want him to get to this point. There are people who tell you or tell us every day that we cannot do those things. They show us the obstacles, they show us the barriers, they point out the problems. What do you say to them?
I say find a way how to get over the obstacles, how to become the overcomer. And instead of looking at the obstacles as a barrier, as a wall that you can't get over, find a way over it.
Okay. So take the stepping stone.
Take the steps, do the research, look into what you need to look into, build what you need to build, develop the talent that you need to achieve what you want to get.
So I'm hearing you say take the stumbling block and make it a stepping stone.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Good answer. Okay, so we deal with the naysayers. We're talking about turning the stumbling blocks into stepping stones. Now, talk to us about motivational speaking. What do you say to people who say to you? A legitimate question. Because there are people who will say to you, for instance, at my ripe age and what I've gone through, I could sit around and talk about an hour about the things that I've done and what not to do. But what do you say? Obviously there's a market and obviously there's an audience, because if you get people that want you to come and speak to educators, to speak to detention homes, to speak to middle schools, to speak to high schools, there's obviously an audience that wants to hear you. So what do you say to people that say, hey, at 21 years old, what do you know to be able to talk to people about? What do you say to them?
Well, what I know is that I'm able to take what I've been through, turn it into a story that other people can understand and that can use as motivation to keep them going and to keep them wanting to do what it is that they want to do, no matter what it is, whether it's something that seems like it's unbelievable, something that seems is normal, whatever it is. If you could have a certain perspective that you could tell somebody that can make them feel right, that can make them feel like, you know what, I like what he said. What he said made me think about my life in a more serious way.
Well, like I said, obviously there's a market for it, because if you're having people to bring you out and saying, hey, come talk to our group. And I saw some of the, as a matter of fact, let me have the book. And I'll do this. Now, we have low flaws, okay? So let me explain this. And I want us to see if we can, well, we don't have any camera people, but Monique's doubling. So she's going to allow us to be able to get a close-up of the book here. Now, because of the low flaws, it means that we can't sell, we don't advertise. The advertisement has to be very, very extremely limited. but we can't advertise or advocate. I can't tell you to go out and buy this book because of the low flaw. So what we're doing is, this is a show for educational purposes only, okay? We're letting you know that we have a young fellow who has gone through some things, who has a compelling story, who has turned adversity into triumph, in the sense that he's not out there selling drugs, he's not out there running around involved in criminal activities, turned his life around, and he's written a book that highlights some of that. And he goes out and does motivational speaking to try to share with individuals so that we might not go down that path. We still have that caller on the line? Hang on, caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hello?
Yes, I'm waiting.
Okay, I just wanted to say, great show. I'm really enjoying it here as I do some work at the office.
Okay, 11 minutes. So we got 6 minutes and we're going to start wrapping up. Okay, so now is the time, if you want to get any more calls in, you need to get them in, because we got one? Okay, go ahead, caller.
Okay, Richard, it's Bernard again.
Okay.
And before you close, our youth today, I think we need to have a reality check, because the young brother seems to be on point.
Okay.
I want to ask him, you know, there's an old adage, faith without works is dead. And our youth today are too caught up, and they desire this immediate result, this immediate gratification. And it seems that if they don't achieve it or get this result, they quit. They give up. They have no plan B, no alternative. They don't have the ability to think on their feet. And that old adage, fail to plan, you plan to fail. My question being, what message or advice does my young brother have for our youth? How can our youth understand failure?
Everything in life is a stepping stone. You know, if it could just happen like this, everybody could be able to do it just like that. It's when you plan those goals, you're supposed to have multiple goals through the day, and each time you achieve something, that's another stepping stone to going after what you want. So the thing to do is just keep on working, and your time will come when you're ready. That's all I can say.
Okay, is that Bernard? Is that Bernard? Bernard, let's get back to the original point.
All right, Richard. What I was saying is, we have a lot of self-help books and motivational speakers that can articulate on success, but they don't understand the concept of failure, and that is a part of life. So I'm addressing my brother to ask, in talking with our youth, they don't understand the concept of failure, how to deal with it, how to handle it, how to address it, how to adapt. So my question is, you know, instead of immediate gratification, which you might not achieve, do you have a plan B? Do you have an alternative? You have a lot of brothers who are sitting down kind of waiting for the ship to come in. But if you ask them, did you send one out? And they'll look at you like, well no. And they don't have a plan. And you mentioned earlier about your goal, how you were goal-oriented, and you had some ambition. And it's hard to instill ambition and drive in an individual. So my question is, if they finally get a desire, they finally get some kind of ignition under them, and it fails, can you give them some input on how to understand failure and how to make, in essence, a positive out of a negative?
Take 2 minutes and answer that, because we're into our 5-minute closing window now.
What I can say about that is, the key is to realize that it doesn't matter if you fail. If you want something, you pick back up. Obstacle is not there to stop or slow you down. It's supposed to let you know, aware of where you're at, and it's supposed to keep you tested. It's like a test, letting you know at that moment, are you ready to go to that next level? So that's why that obstacle is there. And if it knocks you down, then it defeated you. And then if you quit, you gave up on yourself at the end of the day. So, you know, you gotta look at the obstacle and say to yourself, you know what, if I fail, okay, let me try it again. Look at where you failed, and then say to yourself, you know, what did I do wrong? Find out how can you do better, how can you improve on that. Do that, try it again and try it again. Because if you really want it, you're gonna keep on working. Anything you do gotta be relentless.
Amen. Amen. How much time? Yolanda should be playing now, right? I don't hear her. Thank you very much. We're gonna close this out.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for being here. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. The creator of being willing. Join us here next week on The City.